Hello guys, this is Srini. Welcome back to my channel. This is the second video on EKS. If you haven't seen my first video on EKS, I definitely recommend you check that. Check that first. In that video, I talked about how to, what are the things you need to do before you start working with the EKS. You need to set up a CLI tools like AWS CLI, EKS CLI, kubectl or kubectl, those kind of things. Even though that was primarily for Windows users, I also talked about some details on setting up on Linux and Mac, etc. But in all honesty though, if you are actually on Windows, the best thing to do for you is actually having a WSL on your Windows subsystem. For Linux, it makes things much easier for you. So I highly recommend you go this route, setting it up. In fact, I set it up mine yesterday, and I installed Ubuntu on it. So that's the first thing. So to go with the EKS, you can go to Amazon EKS, and you can read through stuff, how it works and things like that. In here you can see actually you can create a cluster from here, but it's not a smooth process yet. For that reason, we'll be doing a little bit differently from creating a cluster from a command line. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is, in order for us to create a cluster or work with EKS, we need to create a user with the proper set of permissions. As a user, you can run the different things. I'll also talk about other options like creating a group and a role, etc. So first, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to keep things simple. So I'm going to go to IAM and then click on new users. I already created one user called EKS test user, but you can click on add user here, type in EKS test user or whatever user you want, and this user requires a programmatic access, and then click next, and then you select this one, which has administrator access, so this user can create clusters, EC2s, and etc. But this is only for the purpose of this tutorial. But in real life, you don't want to do this. In real life, you actually want to give this user very minimum set of permissions that are required to run the cluster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a link to actually required permissions for this user. It's from EKS CTL website. It's called minimum IAM policies. You can go through these policies, and you can create a user or a group, whatever, and attach those things to the user or group. There is other option also you can do is you can also go create a role right here. You can create a role, click on create a role, click on EKS. So there, and then you select EKS, and then next and next and stuff. But as I said, for this video, we're going to keep it very simple. We're just going to create a user. I just showed you, give the user like administrator access for this tutorial. But if it's a real system, a production system, you don't want to do this. Okay. All right. So now we have the user. You are already aware of a minimum set of policies and permissions and stuff, etc. One thing that you want to do is when you create this user, you want to get, in order for you to log into AWS, go here and go to security credentials. And if you create it for the first time, you should have it access ID and secret access ID, secret key. It gives you like a download to CSV. You download that. Once you download it, it will have that information, the access ID and the secret access ID. if you already have a user and you misplaced your access ID and secret key information, you can create access key here. Again, it will give you new access key and secret key which you can use. So once you have the user setup done, next thing is hopefully you have all the CLI tools set up as I explained in my previous video. I'm going to link it in the description if you haven't. So then you go to your terminal, you type in AWS configure, AWS configure, and then you put the access key that you just got from here, which is in my case, this is the access key. And then it will ask you for the secret access key, and then you put the secret access key, which you download from here from CSV. I already have a secret access key, which I do not want to share, neither do you. So I'll be logged in as a into AWS, and then it will ask you for the region. I want to create a US East 2 region. So I've already configured all the stuff here. If you haven't, you have to do the same thing. So at this point, you're already set. You're already logged into AWS console. The only thing left for you to do is create a cluster. So I'm going to link this documentation here on available commands for EKS. Create cluster, delete cluster, describe node group, and get the cluster information, list number of clusters. All these commands are here. I'm going to link that as well in the description for you below. So now I have now I'm logged in. I typed in AWS configure, put in my login information. I'm already in AWS now, connected to AWS. I can create a cluster now. So as you saw before here, let's go to EKS here. I have no clusters. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a cluster from here. Got to run EKS create cluster. It's going to create a cluster with 3 nodes. So what this does is it creates multiple things, right? It's going to create VPC. It's going to create subnets. It's going to create EC2, and underneath it uses CloudFormation, so you can actually go into your console and you can check what are the things that are being created here. This is roughly going to take 15 minutes, so I'm going to pause the video, and when we come back, I'll walk you through the things that are created. Alright guys, it took about 15 minutes, maybe a little bit more, to create the cluster. So as I was saying before, it creates a cluster. When it creates a EKS cluster, it creates many different things. We can have a look at it. If you go to your AWS, you can actually go to your EC2. You can see the worker nodes that are running. There are 3 because that's what we specified here. 3 nodes. So they all have 3 in each cluster. These were terminated from before. And then you can go to EKS, and you can actually see the cluster that got created. And also you can look at the subnets and VPCs, etc. So it creates multiple artifacts. And under the hood, it uses CloudFormation, so you can take a look at different things that that got created, what it's doing, those kind of things. So that's pretty much it for creating a cluster. It's very straightforward. One thing to keep in mind though is for the purpose of this video, I used admin access for the user. If it's real life, you don't want to do that. I'm going to attach links that you need to go through. I'm going to attach in description links to the few of the commands and WSL as well. So before we forget, so this has you have to pay for this, I think 10 cents an hour or so. So for that reason, it created a lot of stuff. I just want to make sure I don't want to leave it on because you're going to incur a lot of cost for this. I'm going to delete my cluster. So it will take 4 or 5 minutes. And then it's going to delete all this. I'm going to deploy one of the Kubernetes example applications from Kubernetes website. You can check this here, Kubernetes docs tutorials in here. You can look at the stateless applications and they tell you how to deploy your stateless applications and stateful applications. So I just picked randomly one of them, which is actually deploying the WordPress with MySQL database on EKS. So in the previous video we left off here where we created a cluster. Hopefully you deleted the cluster after that, otherwise you're going to get charged. So I just created a new cluster. I'm gonna deploy the WordPress application which requires MySQL. I'll walk you through the process. So we're gonna deploy two things. The first one is a MySQL deployment. So this is like a typical Kubernetes manifest file. We're going to deploy a service. Name is going to be WordPress MySQL. Labels WordPress. A port number, which is a default port for MySQL. And selectors. And then we need for this MySQL we need a persistent volume claim, persistent volumes. I would not worry about those things right now. It's just basically getting some kind of storage for the database, right? And then we're requesting 20 gigs of data, all this stuff, and you can go through. So we're going to be reading our passwords from secrets file and everything. I'm going to link this thing in the description below, so you can go through details as well. So basically we're saying, hey, deploy this image MySQL 5.6 with this name, and use this environment variable, read the password from secrets, so the default port and etc. And this is where you're going to mount the mount path. So we're going to deploy that, and then once we have the MySQL database, we're going to deploy actual WordPress. So it's going to be a similar thing. This is going to be a service as well. Name is WordPress, app is WordPress, and the port is 80 because this is a web application. And then we're going to use load balancer. Same process. So we need to put these WordPress files in storage. We use persistent volume claims and persistent volumes, and then so basically it's going to be doing the, you're going to provide it the password to MySQL database, and then this is the mount path where you're going to mount it. So we're going to do these deployments, but we're going to make it a little bit easier. This is probably a little bit advanced topic, customization, Kubernetes. We'll talk about that in some other video, but for now, basically to deploy the whole thing together, you can use this one, customize, where you can actually generate the secret. This is the password we're going to use for our database. And then we're saying in this one, hey, run this service and this service. So we're going to put those files in the customize as resources. What it's going to do is, this is a new feature, well, relatively new feature in Kubernetes. It's going to run these files, apply these two files. So instead of actually applying this and then applying this, it's going to do this. And the customize also comes with the config maps. You can generate config maps automatically. You can generate secrets as well. So having said that, so I have my Kubernetes cluster ready. I am in a folder where I have all these files, customization YAML file I just showed you up here, and then I have my WordPress deployment YAML, which is this one here, and MySQL deployment YAML here. So I have them in the folder where I'm at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply it now. kubectl apply. I'm gonna mistype it sometime, keep forgetting my command, so you can go here for reference. It's a switch. So it's good to get errors sometimes, so you know what how to correct them. So it's gonna run all these files. So as you can see, hey, this service is secret created, your service is created, two services created, your deployments created, your persistent volumes created, right? So now let's go to our Amazon console. So similarly, like we saw last time in our cluster, you can go here and check your running instances. So basically, we said when we created the cluster in the last video, we created 3 nodes and stuff. It's gonna create a few other things, and I talked about all those details in the last video. If you haven't checked it, check that video as well. So we got all this stuff running, and then if you go to EKS, you can see our cluster is created here, as it says here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a few checks just to make sure we got everything right. kubectl get secrets. All right, so we got secrets here, so which is from here. We're using the secret generator, so that corresponds to this. Let's get parts. Let's see what parts are running, right? Okay, we have a few parts running here. So you see that. So we're using one part for WordPress, one part for MySQL. Let's get the services. Okay, so you see the services. So these are just some basic checks you do, just make sure everything is running okay. It looks like everything is good to go. So everything are deployed, but I do want to verify from the browser it actually got deployed, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to EC2 here. I'm gonna go to load balancers, because remember we specified a load balancer, I believe in here, right here. So we have that. So we have load balancer running here. So what I want to do is I want to get this DNS name here, take it from here and check. We see WordPress. See, here we go. So we got that. So that's the simple tutorial on how to deploy application on EKS. As I was saying in the beginning, please do check the previous two tutorials which walk you through EKS from beginning, before you start with the EKS, to creating a cluster to actually deploying an application. If you like the video, please give thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.